Lily Chen has mastered the art of the perfect post. As a rising Instagram influencer, she knows exactly how to capture the most glamorous moments of her carefully curated life. When a luxury resort offers her the opportunity of a lifetime or a year-long global travel campaign, she jets off to Hawaii to celebrate with the perfect photo shoot. Enter Nate Reynolds, a rugged photographer whose raw, unfiltered style is everything Lily isn't. He's in Hawaii working on a book about authentic island life, and he's never met an Instagram filter he didn't hate. But when a chance encounter brings them together, both of their perfectly planned projects get completely derailed. As Lily finds herself drawn into Nate's world of candid moments and genuine connections, she begins to question everything about the life she's curated. And Nate, despite his initial skepticism of influencer culture, discovers there might be more to Lily than perfectly posed photos and clever captions. But with her dream sponsorship hanging in the balance and Nate's artistic integrity on the line, they'll have to decide if love is worth the risk of getting a little unfiltered. After all, some of life's most beautiful moments can't be captured in a single frame, or with any filter at all. A contemporary romance about finding authenticity in a filtered world, and discovering that sometimes the most picture-perfect love stories are the ones that go off script. Chapter 1. Filtered Reality. The harsh blue light of Lily Chen's phone illuminated her face in the pre-dawn darkness of her San Francisco apartment. She squinted, swiping through a sea of notifications. Likes, comments, brand inquiries. A smile tugged at the corner of her lips, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. With a sigh, she swung her legs over the edge of the bed, her feet sinking into the plush white rug. A gift from a home decor brand she'd promoted last month. The rug Lily padded to the kitchen, every step calculated, as if an invisible camera were following her movements. The Nespresso machine hummed to life, and Lily instinctively reached for her phone again. She angled the matte black coffee mug just so, ensuring the gold foil "Good Vibes Only" caught the soft morning light streaming through the bay windows. Click. Filter. Post.
Rise and shine, babes. Who else is counting down the days to my Hawaiian getaway? #morning motivation, #SF living.
Lily's thumbs danced across the screen, replying to comments with a flurry of heart emojis and "thank you, gorgeous" responses. She barely tasted the coffee as she sipped, her mind already racing through her to-do list for the day. First up, a campaign shoot for a new athleisure line. Lily shimmied into the skin-tight leggings and sports bra, twisting this way and that in front of the full-length mirror. She sucked in her stomach, adjusted the waistband, and forced a bright smile.
"You've got this,"
she whispered to her reflection.
"You are confident, successful, and living your best life."
The mantra felt hollow, but Lily pushed the feeling aside. She had a job to do. Hours later, Lily collapsed onto her couch, finally free of the day's layers of makeup and forced smiles. Her phone buzzed incessantly on the coffee table, but for once, she didn't reach for it. Instead, her gaze drifted to the framed photos on her bookshelf, moments frozen in time from her college days. There she was, laughing with friends at a music festival, hair wild and face bare. Another showed her proudly holding up a journalism award, eyes shining with genuine pride. When was the last time she'd felt that way? Unguarded, unfiltered, truly herself. The thought sent a pang through her chest. Lily shook her head, banishing the uncomfortable feeling. She was living the dream, wasn't she? Thousands of followers, brand deals rolling in, a ticket to Hawaii sitting in her inbox. This was everything she'd worked for. So why did it feel like something was missing? Lily's fingers itched to grab her phone, to lose herself in the comforting glow of likes and validation. Instead, she hugged a throw pillow to her chest and stared out at the twinkling San Francisco skyline. In just a few days, she'd be trading these familiar lights for the shores of Hawaii. Maybe there, under a different sky, she'd find whatever it was she couldn't seem to capture in a perfectly staged Instagram post. Chapter 2. Raw Exposure. The first rays of sunlight crept over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. Nate Reynolds crouched low on the wet sand, his camera poised to capture the moment. He held his breath, waiting. There. A flash of green. Click. Nate grinned, reviewing the image on his camera's display. He'd caught it. The elusive green flash, a split-second optical phenomenon that occurred just as the sun dipped below or peaked above the horizon. It was the kind of raw, unfiltered moment he lived for. Rising, Nate brushed the sand from his worn cargo shorts. His hair, longer than he usually kept it, was tied back in a messy bun. A 3-day stubble shadowed his jaw. He looked nothing like the polished photographer who'd left Colorado 3 months ago. Slinging his camera bag over his shoulder, Nate began the trek back to his rented beach cottage. The sand was cool beneath his bare feet, and the salty breeze carried the scent of plumeria. He paused, closing his eyes and inhaling deeply.
This was real.
Inside the cottage, Nate's laptop sat open on a driftwood desk, surrounded by empty coffee mugs and scattered notepads. He set his camera down and slumped into the chair, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The cursor blinked accusingly at the top of a blank document. The Authentic Hawaii, a photographic journey. Nate ran a hand over his face, his excitement from the beach fading. The book deal had seemed like a dream come true when his agent first mentioned it. A chance to showcase Hawaii's hidden beauty, its untouched landscapes and genuine culture. To create something real in a world oversaturated with artificial perfection. But as the deadline loomed, doubt gnawed at him. Was he really capturing the essence of Hawaii? Or was he just another outsider, taking without truly understanding? His gaze drifted to a framed photo on the desk. Nate and his ex-girlfriend, Emily, arms around each other at the summit of a Colorado mountain. He'd taken that photo 2 years ago, just before everything fell apart. Before he'd caught her staging candid moments for her growing Instagram following, twisting their relationship into content for likes. Nate's jaw clenched at the memory. He turned the frame face down with more force than necessary.
No. He wouldn't let this project become another exercise in fabricated reality. Hawaii deserved better. He deserved better.
Determined, Nate pulled up his calendar. He had 2 months left before his return flight to the mainland. 2 months to dig deeper, to find the real stories behind the postcard-perfect beaches and luau's. His finger traced a circle around today's date. There was a local festival in Halewa Town, the kind of event tourists often overlooked. It wasn't the Hawaii of travel brochures, but it was authentic, real. Nate stood, stretching until his back popped. He gathered his camera gear, double-checking that he had plenty of memory cards. As he headed for the door, his phone buzzed with a notification.
Landed in paradise. Can't wait to share this journey with you all. #Aloha Vibes. #Island Life.
The post was from @LillianBloom, an influencer his agent had suggested he follow for inspiration. The photo showed a young woman beaming at the camera, lay around her neck, Instagram perfect from her glossy hair to her coordinated luggage. Nate rolled his eyes and pocketed his phone without liking the post. That wasn't the Hawaii he was here to capture. With a determined set to his shoulders, Nate stepped out into the warm Hawaiian morning. Somewhere beyond the tourist traps and staged photo ops, the real Hawaii was waiting, and he was going to find it, one authentic moment at a time. Chapter 3. Candid Encounter. Lily Chen stood at the edge of the water, toes sinking into the wet sand. The sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks. The perfect backdrop for her golden hour photo shoot. She adjusted her flowy maxi dress, making sure it caught the breeze just right.
A little to the left, Lily.
Her temporary photographer, a college student she'd hired for the week, called out.
Now look out at the horizon. Perfect.
Lily gazed wistfully at the ocean, channeling her best carefree beach goddess energy. The camera clicked rapidly.
Great. Now how about...
A volleyball soared past, missing Lily's head by inches. She yelped, stumbling backward and nearly toppling into the incoming wave.
Watch out!
A deep voice called. Before Lily could regain her balance, strong hands steadied her shoulders. She looked up, meeting a pair of startled brown eyes.
Are you okay?
The stranger asked, concern etched on his stubbled face.
Yes, I think so.
The man let go of her shoulders, running a hand through his messy hair.
I'm so sorry about that. My aim isn't what it used to be.
Lily smoothed her dress, acutely aware of the damp patches where the ocean had splashed her.
It's fine, really. No harm done.
The stranger's gaze flickered to the camera, then back to Lily. A flicker of recognition. And was that a hint of amusement? Crossed his face.
Wait, aren't you that influencer? The one who just arrived?
Lily straightened, slipping back into her public persona.
Yes, that's me. Lily Chen. And you are?
Nate Reynolds.
He stuck out his hand, then seemed to think better of it, noticing the sand coating his palm.
Sorry, I'm a bit of a mess.
Lily couldn't help but laugh.
I think we both are now.
Nate grinned, and Lily felt an unexpected flutter in her stomach. He was handsome in a rugged, unstyled way, all tan skin and lean muscle, a far cry from the meticulously groomed men in her usual social circle.
So?
Nate said, nodding towards the camera.
Getting some shots for the gram?
Was that a hint of judgment in his tone? Lily bristled slightly.
It's part of my job. I'm here to showcase the beauty of Hawaii.
Nate raised an eyebrow.
And does that beauty include nearly getting beamed by wayward volleyballs?
Lily opened her mouth to retort, but found herself laughing instead.
Well, it certainly wasn't in my content plan.
Maybe it should be.
Nate said, his eyes twinkling.
Nothing says authentic Hawaii experience like a near-death experience via beach sport.
Oh? And I suppose you're an expert on authentic experiences?
Lily challenged, surprised by how easy it felt to banter with this stranger. Nate shrugged, a mischievous smile playing on his lips.
I might know a thing or two. In fact...
He trailed off, distracted by something over Lily's shoulder.
Hold that thought.
Before Lily could respond, Nate jogged past her to the water's edge. He crouched down, pulling a camera from the bag she hadn't noticed before. Lily watched, puzzled, as he focused intently on something in the shallow water. Curiosity got the better of her. She moved closer, peering over his shoulder.
What are you?
Shh, Nate whispered, not unkindly.
Look.
Lily followed his gaze. There, half buried in the wet sand, was a tiny hermit crab. As they watched, it emerged from its shell, scuttling sideways before disappearing beneath the sand again. Click. Nate captured the moment. He stood, showing Lily the image on his camera's display.
Now that's Hawaii.
Lily stared at the photo, then at Nate. For a moment, she forgot about her own interrupted photo shoot. The damp dress, the sand clinging to her legs.
It's beautiful,
she said softly. Nate met her eyes, and something passed between them. A spark of understanding, perhaps. Or something more. The moment was broken by Lily's photographer calling out.
Lily, should we try for a few more shots before we lose the light?
Lily turned, suddenly remembering where she was and why.
Oh, right. Yes, of course.
She looked back at Nate, an inexplicable reluctance to end their encounter tugging at her.
It was nice meeting you, Nate, despite the circumstances.
Nate's smile was warm.
Likewise, Lily. Maybe I'll see you around? I hear there's a great local festival in town tomorrow. Not very Insta-worthy, but definitely authentic.
Lily hesitated. A local festival wasn't on her itinerary. But something about Nate's invitation intrigued her.
Maybe,
she said, surprising herself.
If I can find the time.
As she walked back to her photographer, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that her carefully planned Hawaiian content calendar had just been delightfully derailed. And for once, she didn't mind one bit. Chapter 4. Sparks and Setbacks. The sun had long since set, but the beach was far from quiet. A bonfire crackled merrily, casting dancing shadows on the sand. Around it, tourists and locals alike laughed and chatted, the sound of ukulele music drifting through the air. Lily sat on a driftwood log, absently swirling a fruity cocktail. She'd come to the bonfire to capture some authentic nightlife content, but her heart wasn't in it. Her mind kept drifting to the local festival she'd skipped in favor of a sponsored snorkeling trip. The photos had been stunning, but something felt missing.
Is this seat taken?
Lily looked up, startled. Nate stood before her, a bottle of local beer in hand and an amused quirk to his lips.
Nate, no, it's free.
She scooted over, trying to ignore the little flip her stomach did. He settled beside her, close enough that she could smell a hint of sunscreen and something uniquely him.
Fancy meeting you here. No camera tonight?
Lily laughed, holding up her phone.
Always prepared. You?
Nate patted his ever-present camera bag.
Guilty as charged. Though I'm starting to think Hawaii has more to offer than just photo ops.
Their eyes met, and for a moment, the noise of the party faded away. Lily felt a blush creep up her neck and quickly looked away.
So, how was the festival?
A flicker of disappointment crossed Nate's face.
It was great. Very authentic.
He took a swig of his beer.
Shame you couldn't make it.
Lily winced.
Yeah, I had a prior commitment.
Let me guess. Swimming with dolphins? Luau at a 5-star resort?
Snorkeling, actually.
Lily retorted, a defensive edge creeping into her voice.
It was for work.
Hey, no judgment. I'm sure your followers loved it.
An awkward silence fell between them. Lily fidgeted with her drink, while Nate seemed suddenly fascinated by the fire. Just as Lily was considering making an excuse to leave, a gust of wind sent sparks flying from the bonfire. One landed on Nate's shirt, and he yelped, jumping up and batting at it frantically. Without thinking, Lily grabbed her drink and tossed it at Nate's chest. The spark fizzled out, leaving Nate standing there, dripping and smelling of pineapple and rum. For a beat, they stared at each other in shock. Then, simultaneously, they burst into laughter.
My hero.
Nate chuckled, plucking at his soaked shirt.
Though I think the cure might be worse than the disease.
Lily covered her mouth, torn between mortification and amusement.
I'm so sorry, I panicked.
No, it's fine. I've always wanted to smell like a tropical cocktail.
Nate's eyes twinkled with mirth.
Though I have to say, this isn't quite the authentic Hawaii experience I had in mind.
Lily giggled, the tension from earlier melting away.
Well, maybe you need an expert to show you around. I hear I'm pretty good at finding Instagram-worthy spots.
Oh, really?
Nate raised an eyebrow.
And what would the great Lily Chen recommend for a humble photographer like myself?
Lily tapped her chin thoughtfully.
How about a sunrise hike? I know a spot that's supposed to be amazing.
The words were out before she could second-guess them. Nate looked surprised, then pleased.
A sunrise hike, huh? Sounds pretty authentic to me. You're on.
As their laughter subsided, Nate plucked at his soaked shirt.
Well, I think I owe you a drink now. What's your poison?
Lily smiled, a bit sheepish.
Another Piplasa colada would be great, thanks.
Coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
Nate said with a wink, heading towards the makeshift bar. Lily watched him go, still chuckling to herself. She turned back to the fire, lost in thought. The flames danced, casting a warm glow on her face and hair. Nate was on his way back with their drinks when he stopped short. The sight of Lily, bathed in the firelight, took his breath away. Without thinking, he set the drinks down on a nearby table and reached for his camera. Click, click, click. Lily turned at the sound, her eyes widening when she saw Nate with his camera.
What are you doing?
Nate lowered the camera, suddenly self-conscious.
I'm sorry, I should have asked. It's just, the light was perfect and you looked so...
So what?
Lily asked, her tone a mix of annoyance and curiosity.
real.
Nate finished softly.
You looked real.
Lily's irritation faded, replaced by a flutter of something she couldn't quite name.
Can I see?
Nate hesitated, then nodded, moving to sit beside her. He pulled up the photos on his camera's display. Lily's breath caught. The images were stunning. In them, she saw a version of herself she barely recognized. Relaxed, unguarded, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with careful poses or perfect lighting.
Nate, these are incredible.
She whispered. He rubbed the back of his neck, a faint blush coloring his cheeks.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Lily confirmed, unable to take her eyes off the photos.
you have a real talent.
Nate's face lit up.
So do you, you know. Your photos, they're different from mine, sure, but they're art too. The way you capture beauty, even if it's curated, it takes skill.
Lily felt a warm glow in her chest. How long had it been since someone had seen her work as more than just influencer stuff?
Maybe.
She said slowly.
Maybe we could collaborate sometime. Your raw style, my eye for composition.
I'd like that.
Nate said, his smile genuine.
We could create something really special.
Their eyes met, and for a moment the rest of the world faded away. Lily felt herself leaning in slightly, drawn by some invisible force. Then, simultaneously, both their phones buzzed loudly. The spell broken, they jumped apart. Lily fumbled for her phone, seeing a notification from her on-again, off-again boyfriend back home. "Miss you, babe. Can't wait for you to get back." The warm glow in her chest turned to a knot of guilt. What was she doing? Beside her, Nate's own phone chimed. He glanced at it, his smile fading slightly.
My agent. Probably wondering where those authentic shots are.
They both pocketed their phones. The moment shattered. Lily cleared her throat.
So, sunrise hike, meet at the hotel lobby at 5?
Nate nodded, his smile returning but not quite reaching his eyes.
It's a date. I mean, not a date, just...
Right, of course.
Lily said quickly.
Just two friends exploring Hawaii.
Exactly.
Nate stood, gesturing to his still damp shirt.
I should probably go change before I attract every mosquito on the island. See you in the morning?
Lily nodded, watching as he walked away. She sighed, turning back to the fire. What had started as a simple trip for content was becoming complicated. But as she pictured Nate's face, alight with passion as he showed her his photos, Lily couldn't bring herself to regret it. Not yet, anyway. Chapter 5. Dawn of Doubt. The sky was just beginning to lighten as Lily and Nate set out on their hike. The air was cool and fresh, filled with the scent of damp earth and tropical flowers.
I can't believe I'm willingly up before sunrise.
Lily laughed, adjusting her backpack.
My followers would never believe it.
No avocado toast or artisanal coffee in sight. How will you survive?
Their banter flowed easily as they made their way up the trail. Lily found herself relaxing, enjoying the quiet moments between conversations as much as the playful exchanges. As they rounded a bend, the trees parted to reveal a breathtaking view of the coastline. The first rays of sunlight were just beginning to paint the sky in vibrant hues of pink and gold.
Oh, wow.
Lily breathed, instinctively reaching for her phone.
Wait.
Nate said softly, touching her arm.
Just look at it for a moment, really see it.
Lily hesitated, then lowered her phone. She took a deep breath, letting the beauty of the moment wash over her. It was different. No pressure to capture the perfect shot, no mental calculations about engagement rates, just peace.
It's beautiful.
She whispered. Nate nodded, his eyes on her face rather than the view.
Yeah, it is.
Their eyes met, and for a moment, the air between them crackled with unspoken possibility. Then Nate cleared his throat, breaking the spell.
So, want me to take a photo of you here for your Instagram?
Oh, right, yes, that would be great.
Lily said, flustered. She struck a pose, but it felt forced, unnatural after the genuine moment they'd just shared. Nate frowned slightly as he raised his camera.
Maybe just be yourself, like you were a moment ago?
Lily's smile faltered.
This is myself. This is what I do, Nate.
A flicker of disappointment crossed Nate's face.
Right, of course.
As Nate snapped a few photos, an uncomfortable silence fell between them. Lily felt a knot forming in her stomach. Why did she suddenly feel like she was doing something wrong? They continued their hike, the easy banter of earlier replaced by stilted small talk. As they reached the summit, Lily's phone buzzed. A text from her manager. Great news! Luxury resort chain wants to partner for a year-long campaign. Global travel, all expenses paid. Need to know ASAP. Lily's heart raced. This was the kind of opportunity she'd been working towards for years. But as she glanced at Nate, happily snapping photos of the landscape, she felt an unexpected pang of something she couldn't quite name.
Everything okay?
Nate asked, noticing her expression.
Yeah, just work stuff.
Lily said vaguely.
What about you? Getting some good shots for your book?
Nate's face lit up.
Absolutely. This is exactly the kind of real, untouched Hawaii I want to showcase. You know, I've been thinking about extending my stay here. Really immerse myself in the culture, get to know the locals.
Oh, Lily said, surprised by the twinge of disappointment she felt.
That's great.
Yeah, I figure why rush back to the mainland, you know? There's so much here to explore, to capture authentically.
The word authentically echoed in Lily's mind. She thought of the luxury resort offer, of the carefully curated life she'd built, of the vast difference between her world and Nate's. Why did it suddenly make her feel inadequate?
Lily?
Nate's voice broke through her thoughts.
You sure you're okay?
She forced a smile.
Yeah, of course. Just thinking about work.
Nate nodded, but she could see the concern in his eyes.
Hey, want me to take a shot of you up here? Sunrise Summit selfie and all that?
Lily hesitated.
I'm sure, why not?
She moved to the edge of the lookout, trying to find her usual pose. But something felt off. She was acutely aware of Nate watching her, of how staged this must look to him.
You know what?
She said suddenly, stepping back.
Maybe not. Let's just enjoy the view.
Nate lowered his camera, surprise and something like approval flickering across his face.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Lily said, surprising herself. She turned to look out at the stunning landscape, letting herself just be in the moment. As Lily stood there, lost in the beauty of the sunrise, Nate found himself captivated by a different sight. The soft morning light bathed Lily's profile, her expression open and wonder-filled in a way he'd never seen before. Without thinking, he raised his camera. Click. The sound was soft, barely audible over the gentle island breeze, but to Nate, it felt momentous. He'd captured something rare and beautiful. Lily, completely unguarded, authentically herself. Lily, oblivious to the moment Nate had preserved, continued to gaze out at the horizon. Nate lowered his camera, a mix of emotions swirling in his chest. He felt almost guilty, as if he'd intruded on a private moment, but also exhilarated. This was the real Hawaii he'd been trying to capture, wasn't it? Real people, real moments. As the sun rose fully above the horizon, bathing the world in golden light, Nate found himself sneaking more photos of Lily, her hand absent-mindedly brushing a strand of hair from her face. The soft smile that played on her lips as a tropical bird called in the distance, the thoughtful furrow of her brow as she seemed to be lost in contemplation. Each click of his camera felt like he was collecting pieces of a puzzle, a Lily that existed beyond the carefully curated Instagram posts and sponsored content, a Lily that, he was beginning to suspect, not many people got to see. Beside him, Lily snuck a glance at Nate. The morning light softened his features, and she felt a sudden urge to reach out and touch him. The thought startled her, and she quickly looked away. What was she doing? This wasn't part of her plan. Nate was everything she wasn't. Raw, unfiltered, chasing authenticity while she chased likes and sponsorships. And yet...
We should head back.
Nate said softly, breaking the silence.
Unless you want to stay up here all day?
Lily laughed, but it sounded forced even to her own ears.
Tempting, but I've got a full day of shoots ahead of me.
Right.
Nate nodded, and was that disappointment she heard in his voice?
Back to the real world, huh?
As they began their descent, Lily's mind raced. The easy connection they'd felt earlier seemed strained now, weighed down by unspoken thoughts and conflicting desires. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket. The resort offer, waiting for an answer. A path forward, clear and defined. Everything she'd worked for. So why did it suddenly feel like she might be missing something important? As they reached the base of the trail, Nate turned to her.
Thanks for joining me this morning. It was nice.
Yeah,
Lily said softly.
it was.
For a moment, they stood there, something unspoken hanging in the air between them. Lily felt her heart racing, aware of how close they were standing, of how easy it would be to just lean in.
I should go.
She said abruptly, taking a step back.
Early meeting with my team.
Oh,
Nate said, blinking as if coming out of a daze.
right, of course. I'll, see you around.
Lily nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She turned and walked quickly towards her hotel, her mind a whirlwind of confusion. What was happening to her? This was supposed to be a simple trip. Get content, boost her following, maybe land a big sponsorship. Nate wasn't part of the plan. Nate, with his authentic moments and his judgment of her curated life. Nate, who made her question things she'd always taken for granted. Nate, who made her heart race in a way no perfectly staged photo ever had. As she reached her hotel room, Lily's phone buzzed once more. Her manager, asking for a decision on the resort offer. Lily stared at the message, her finger hovering over the screen. It was everything she'd ever wanted. Wasn't it? With a frustrated groan, she tossed the phone on the bed, leaving the message unanswered. She had a lot to think about. Chapter 6. Shifting Perspectives. The afternoon sun beat down on Waikiki Beach. Tourists sprawled on towels soaking up the rays. Lily sat under a striped umbrella, her laptop balanced on her knees. She'd been staring at the same email draft for an hour, cursor blinking accusingly at her indecision.
Dear Marco, about the luxury resort campaign.
Her fingers hovered over the keys, then dropped. With a frustrated sigh, she closed the laptop and leaned back, closing her eyes behind her designer sunglasses.
Tough day at the office?
Lily's eyes snapped open. Nate stood before her, camera in hand, and an amused smile playing on his lips.
Nate, what are you doing here?
He gestured vaguely down the beach.
Working, sort of. You?
Same.
Lily said, patting her closed laptop.
Sort of.
An awkward silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken thoughts about their sunrise hike 2 days ago. Nate cleared his throat.
Listen, I was about to grab a shave ice. Want to join me? You look like you could use a break.
Lily hesitated. She should say no. She had emails to answer, content to plan, but
You know what? Yeah, that sounds great.
as they walked along the beach, Lily found herself relaxing. Nate had a way of making her forget about hashtags and engagement rates, if only for a moment.
So,
Nate said as they reached the shave ice stand.
how's the influencing going? Landed any big campaigns lately?
Was there a hint of judgment in his tone? Lily bristled slightly, then caught herself. No, he was genuinely asking.
Actually,
She said slowly.
I got offered a pretty amazing opportunity. Year-long campaign, global travel.
Wow,
Nate said, looking impressed.
that's huge. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Lily smiled, surprised by how good it felt to have him appreciate her work.
What about you? How's the book coming along?
Nate's face lit up as he launched into a description of the local stories he'd been capturing. Lily found herself captivated by his enthusiasm, the way his hands moved as he talked. They settled on a nearby wall, shave ice in hand, watching the waves roll in.
You know,
Nate said suddenly.
I've been thinking about what you said. About your work being real for you.
Lily turned to him, surprised.
Oh?
Nate nodded, looking a bit sheepish.
I think I might have been too quick to judge. The way you talk about your campaigns, the thought you put into your content. It's art, in its own way. Different from what I do, but still valid.
Something warm bloomed in Lily's chest.
That means a lot, actually. Thanks, Nate.
Their eyes met, and for a moment, the bustling beach faded away. Lily felt herself leaning in slightly, drawn by some invisible force. Then a glob of shave ice fell from Nate's cone, landing with a splat on his shirt. They both burst out laughing, the tension broken.
Smooth.
Lily giggled, handing him a napkin. As Nate dabbed at his shirt, Lily's phone buzzed. Another message from her manager about the resort campaign. The real world, intruding once again. Nate must have noticed her expression fall.
Everything okay?
Lily hesitated, then found herself opening up.
It's this campaign. It's an amazing opportunity, but I'm not sure it's what I want anymore. Or at least not all I want.
The words tumbled out before she could stop them.
Being here, seeing Hawaii through your eyes, it's made me realize there's so much more I could be doing with my platform. More authentic stories I could be telling.
Nate's eyes widened slightly.
Wow, that's great, Lily. Really.
Is it?
Lily laughed, but it sounded hollow.
Because it's terrifying. I've worked so hard to get where I am. The thought of changing direction now.
Nate placed a hand on her arm, the touch sending a jolt through her.
Hey, taking risks is scary. But from what I've seen, you're pretty amazing at what you do. I bet you could find a way to blend the glam with the genuine.
Lily looked at him, really looked at him. In that moment, she saw not just the rugged photographer who challenged her worldview, but someone who truly saw her. All of her.
What about you?
She asked softly.
Any big revelations lately?
Nate chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck.
Well, I might have realized that there's value in planning and curation too. Not everything has to be raw and unfiltered to be meaningful.
Their eyes met again, a current of understanding passing between them. Just then, a group of tourists walked by, one of them pointing excitedly at Lily. "Oh my God, it's Lily in bloom. Can we get a photo?" The spell was broken. Lily plastered on her professional smile, posing with the fans, while Nate stepped back, watching with a mix of admiration and something like longing. As the fans walked away, Lily turned back to Nate, an apology on her lips. But he just smiled, a soft, genuine thing that made her heart skip.
Duty calls, huh?
He said, no judgment in his voice.
Yeah.
Lily said, suddenly reluctant to leave.
I should probably get back to work.
Nate nodded, standing up.
Me too. But, there's this local art show tomorrow night. Pretty low-key, authentic island vibes. If you're not too busy with influencer stuff, maybe you'd like to come? As friends, of course.
Lily felt a smile spread across her face.
You know what? I'd love to.
As they parted ways, Lily felt lighter somehow. The decision about the resort campaign still loomed. Her fears about changing her brand still nagged. But for the first time in a long while, she felt excited about the possibilities. She cast one last glance over her shoulder at Nate's retreating form. Maybe, just maybe, there was room in her carefully curated life for something a little more authentic. Chapter 7. Brushstrokes of Change. The local art gallery hummed with quiet conversation and the soft strains of ukulele music. Lily hesitated at the entrance, smoothing down her floral sundress. She'd opted for minimal makeup and let her hair fall in natural waves, a far cry from her usual polished Instagram look. Her hand hovered over her phone in her purse, a familiar urge to document the moment rising. With a deep breath, she let her hand fall to her side. Tonight was about experiencing, not posting. As she stepped inside, her eyes scanned the room, landing on a familiar figure. Nate stood before a large canvas, his brow furrowed in concentration. The sight of him, relaxed in a linen shirt and khakis, so at ease in this environment, sent a flutter through her chest. Lily approached quietly, coming to stand beside him. For a moment, they both gazed at the painting in silence. A vibrant depiction of a local fish market, all bold colours and dynamic brushstrokes.
It's beautiful,
Lily murmured. Nate turned, a smile lighting up his face.
You came.
I said I would, didn't I?
Lily replied, ignoring the way her heart skipped at his evident pleasure. As they moved through the gallery, Lily found herself captivated not just by the art, but by Nate's commentary. His passion for the local culture shone through in every observation, every anecdote about the artists. They paused before a series of photographs, and Lily's breath caught. The images captured everyday moments of island life: a child's laughter, an old woman's weathered hands, a fisherman's quiet pride. They were raw, real, and undeniably beautiful.
These are incredible.
Lily breathed.
The way the photographer captured the emotion in each shot.
Nate nodded, a hint of pride in his voice.
Thanks. They're, actually mine.
Lily's eyes widened.
Nate, these are, wow, you're really talented.
Their eyes met, and for a moment, the crowded gallery faded away. Lily felt a sudden urge to reach out, to bridge the small gap between them. The moment was shattered by a voice behind them.
Nate, there you are, man.
They turned to see a local artist approaching, his arms open wide. As Nate greeted him warmly, Lily took a step back, suddenly feeling out of place. This was Nate's world, full of authentic talent and genuine connections. What was she doing here, playing at being something she wasn't? Her gaze drifted back to Nate's photographs. One, in particular, caught her eye. A young girl, her face alight with wonder as she watched a sea turtle on the beach. The joy in the image was palpable, unfiltered. Unbidden, a memory surfaced. The bonfire on the beach. Nate showing her the candid photos he'd taken. The way she'd felt seeing herself through his lens. Real. Unguarded. Beautiful. Lily's hand twitched towards her phone again, the instinct to share, to curate, to filter rising. But something held her back. She thought of her followers, of the resort campaign still hanging in the balance. What would they think if they could see her now, bare-faced and uncertain in a world so different from her usual glamorous posts?
Lily?
Nate's voice broke through her reverie.
You okay?
She turned to find him watching her, concern etched on his features. The local artist had moved on, leaving them alone again.
Yeah,
Lily gestured vaguely at the photographs.
I was thinking about my own work, how different it is from this.
Nate's brow furrowed.
Different doesn't mean bad, Lily. Your work has value too, just in a different way.
Does it?
The words slipped out before she could stop them.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm really creating anything meaningful or just selling a fantasy.
Nate was quiet for a moment, his eyes searching her face. Then gently, he took her hand.
Come with me. I want to show you something.
He led her to a quiet corner of the gallery, where a small crowd had gathered around a painting. As they approached, Lily could see why. The canvas seemed to glow from within, depicting a sunrise over the ocean in luminous hues.
The artist uses a technique that incorporates crushed pearls and coral into the paint.
Nate explained softly.
It's what gives it that ethereal quality. Some people say it's gimmicky, not real art. But look how it affects people.
Lily watched the viewers' faces, the awe, the joy, the wistful smiles. One woman was wiping away a tear.
You see?
Nate continued.
It might be a fantasy, but it's creating real emotions, real connections, just like your work does.
Lily felt something shift inside her, a seed of an idea taking root. She thought of her followers, of the messages she received about how her posts brightened their days. Maybe there was a way to bridge these two worlds. The polished and the authentic, the aspirational and the real. As if reading her thoughts, Nate squeezed her hand.
You don't have to choose, between your world and this one.
Lily looked up at him, struck by the warmth in his eyes. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine it. A life where she could have both. The thrill of creating beautiful content and the satisfaction of telling real stories. A life that might include the man standing beside her, who challenged her and supported her in equal measure. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Lily felt herself leaning in slightly, drawn by some invisible force. Then her phone buzzed loudly in her purse. Reality came crashing back. Lily stepped away, her cheeks flushing.
I should probably check that.
Nate nodded, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face before he masked it with a smile.
Of course, duty calls, right?
As Lily fumbled with her phone, seeing another message from her manager about the resort campaign, she felt torn between two worlds. The path forward wasn't clear, but for the first time, she felt excited about the possibilities. She looked back at Nate, who was giving her space, but watching her with a mixture of concern and something deeper, something that made her heart race. Whatever came next, Lily realized, it wouldn't be something she could filter or curate, and maybe, just maybe, that was okay. Chapter 8. Tides of Change. The morning sun sparkled on the ocean as Lily jogged along the beach, her bare feet sinking into the damp sand. She'd woken early, restless and unable to shake thoughts of the art gallery, of Nate's photographs, of the almost moment they'd shared. Lost in thought, she didn't notice the figure ahead until it was too late. She collided with a solid chest, strong hands steadying her before she could fall.
Whoa there.
Lily looked up, her heart skipping a beat.
Nate?
He grinned down at her, hands lingering on her arms.
We've got to stop meeting like this.
Lily laughed, stepping back and hoping he didn't notice the flush creeping up her neck.
What are you doing out here so early?
Nate gestured to the water.
Sunrise shoot. The light's perfect right now.
He paused, studying her face.
Everything okay? You seemed pretty deep in thought there.
Lily hesitated. How could she explain the turmoil of the past few days? The doubts about her career, the growing desire for something more authentic, the way her heart raced every time she saw him. Before she could respond, a shout came from down the beach. "Nate, we're losing the light, brah!" Nate glanced over his shoulder, then back at Lily.
Hey, want to join us? Could be fun to see how the other half lives.
He added with a wink. Lily bit her lip, considering. Her day was supposed to be packed with sponsored posts and calls about the resort campaign, but
You know what? Yeah, I'd love to.
the next hour passed in a blur of laughter and discovery. Lily watched in awe as Nate directed his small team, his passion evident in every instruction. He showed her how to use his camera, guiding her hands as she framed shots of the locals going about their morning routines.
See that fisherman there?
Nate murmured, his breath warm on her ear as he pointed.
Watch how the light hits his face when he smiles. That's the moment you want to capture.
Lily nodded, acutely aware of Nate's proximity. She raised the camera, waiting for the perfect moment. Click,
Got it.
she exclaimed, turning to Nate with a grin. Their faces were inches apart, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. The spell was broken by a sudden commotion near the water. They turned to see a group of people gathered, pointing at something in the waves. "Monk seal," someone shouted. "It looks injured." Without hesitation, Nate sprinted towards the crowd, Lily close behind. As they reached the water's edge, they saw the seal struggling in the shallows, a fishing net tangled around its flipper.
We need to help it.
Nate said, already wading into the water. Lily kicked off her shoes, following him without a second thought. Together, they approached the distressed animal, moving slowly to avoid startling it.
Easy there, big guy.
Nate murmured soothingly.
We're here to help.
As Nate gently held the seal still, Lily worked to untangle the net. Her fingers moved deftly, years of styling intricate outfits for photos, finally put to a different use. The seal's dark eyes watched her, surprisingly calm. With a final tug, the net came free. The seal barked once, as if in thanks, before swimming off into deeper water. Cheers erupted from the beach. Lily turned to Nate, exhilarated. His eyes shone with a mixture of pride and something deeper, something that made her breath catch.
That was amazing.
He said softly.
You were amazing.
Before she could overthink it, Lily closed the distance between them. Their lips met, salt water and adrenaline mingling in a kiss that felt like coming home and embarking on a new adventure all at once. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Nate rested his forehead against hers.
Wow.
He whispered. Lily laughed, a sound of pure joy.
Yeah, wow.
As they waded back to shore, hand in hand, Lily's mind raced. This wasn't part of her plan. It wasn't curated or filtered or sponsored. It was messy and real and absolutely terrifying. And yet, she glanced at Nate, saw the way he beamed at her, and for a moment, she allowed herself to imagine. Mornings like this, filled with purpose and spontaneity. Evenings at local galleries, bridging their two worlds. A life where she could be both the polished influencer and the barefoot girl who saved seals. A happily ever after with a man who saw her, all of her, and liked what he saw. The fantasy was intoxicating. But as they reached the beach, reality began to creep back in. Her phone, abandoned with her shoes, blinked with missed calls and messages. The resort campaign. Her carefully cultivated image. The life she'd worked so hard to build. Nate must have sensed her hesitation. He squeezed her hand gently.
Hey, you okay?
Lily looked up at him, torn between the future she'd always thought she wanted and the possibility of something new, something real.
I don't know.
She admitted.
This is all happening so fast.
Nate nodded, understanding in his eyes.
We can take it slow, figure it out together.
As Lily opened her mouth to respond, a familiar voice cut through the air.
Lily? Oh my God, is that you?
She turned to see Marissa, a fellow influencer she'd collaborated with in the past, staring at her with wide eyes. Marissa's perfectly styled hair and flawless makeup stood in stark contrast to Lily's own disheveled, salt-water-soaked appearance.
I almost didn't recognize you.
Marissa exclaimed, her eyes darting between Lily and Nate, taking in their joined hands.
Wait till everyone sees this.
As Marissa raised her phone, no doubt to capture the moment for her millions of followers, Lily felt her two worlds colliding. The carefully constructed image she'd built and the raw, authentic experience she'd just shared, now intersecting in ways she couldn't control. In a split-second decision, Lily yanked her hand away from Nate's, taking a step back. She saw confusion and hurt flash across his face, but couldn't bring herself to meet his eyes.
Marissa, hi.
Lily said, her voice unnaturally high.
We were...
As Lily fumbled for words, caught between her instinct to protect her image and the ache in her chest from Nate's wounded expression, she realized that whatever choice she made next would change everything. The stakes had never been higher, and she had no idea what to do. Chapter 9. Riptides of the Heart. The walk back to Lily's hotel was silent, the earlier joy of the morning washed away by the tide of reality. Nate's presence beside her felt like a reproach, though his face remained carefully neutral. As they reached the hotel entrance, Lily turned to him, words bubbling up.
Nate,
It's fine.
He cut her off, his tone belying his words.
I get it. You have an image to maintain.
Before Lily could respond, he was gone, striding down the beach with his camera bag slung over his shoulder. She watched him go, her heart heavy in her chest. In her room, Lily stood under the shower, letting the warm water wash away the salt and sand. But it couldn't wash away the memory of Nate's hurt expression, or the sick feeling in her stomach. She wrapped herself in a fluffy robe and sank onto the bed, her gaze landing on her open laptop. The blinking cursor in her email draft seemed to mock her indecision.
Dear Marco, regarding the luxury resort campaign.
Lily's fingers hovered over the keys, then dropped. She closed her eyes, memories flooding back unbidden. The bonfire on the beach, Nate showing her the candid photos he'd taken.
Now that's Hawaii.
He'd said, his eyes alight with passion. The art gallery, his hand warm in hers, as he showed her the pearl painting.
You don't have to choose, between your world and this one.
This morning, the exhilaration of helping the seal, the feel of his lips on hers. Lily's eyes snapped open. She grabbed her phone, scrolling through her Instagram feed. Photo after photo of perfectly posed moments, carefully filtered and captioned. Was this really all she was? All she wanted to be? A notification popped up. Marissa had tagged her in a post. With trembling fingers, Lily opened it. The photo showed her and Nate emerging from the water, hands clasped and faces alight with joy. It was blurry, taken from a distance, but the happiness radiating from them was unmistakable.
Spotted at Lillian Bloom, getting up close and personal with the local wildlife. And I don't just mean the seal. #island. Romance. #unfiltered moments.
Lily stared at the image, her heart racing. It was raw, unpolished, nothing like her usual content. And yet, it was beautiful. Real. She thought of her followers, of the messages she received about how her posts inspired them. Could she inspire them with authenticity too? Show them that life didn't have to be perfectly filtered to be beautiful. But as quickly as the thought came, doubt crept in. What if her followers didn't want reality? What if brands stopped wanting to work with her? She'd worked so hard to build her career, her life. Could she really risk it all for, what? A man she barely knew? A version of herself she wasn't sure existed? Lily's gaze drifted to her suitcase, where a small box lay hidden beneath her clothes. Inside was a bottle of sand from the beach where she'd first met Nate. She'd collected it on a whim, a private memento of a moment that had felt significant. She'd never kept such sentimental souvenirs before. Her life was digital, curated, easily packed up and moved to the next exotic location. But now, a knock at the door startled her from her reverie. Lily opened it to find a hotel staff member holding a small package. "Delivery for you, Miss Chen." Puzzled, Lily took the package and retreated back into her room. She opened it with shaking hands, gasping softly at what she found inside. It was a photo. One of Nate's, but not the polished shots from his gallery showing. This was from their morning on the beach. In it, Lily was laughing, hair wild and eyes bright as she looked through his camera. She barely recognized herself, and yet, she'd never looked more alive. A note accompanied the photo.
This is the Lily I see. Thought you might want to meet her too. Nate.
Lily sank onto the bed, the photo clutched to her chest. Tears pricked at her eyes as the full weight of her situation hit her. She wanted this. The joy, the spontaneity, the realness she felt with Nate. But wanting wasn't enough. She had to be brave enough to choose it, to let go of the safety of her curated life and dive into the unknown. As if on cue, her phone buzzed. Her manager.
Luxury resort impatient for an answer. Need to know by tomorrow if you're in. This could be huge for your brand, Lily. Don't let this opportunity slip away.
Lily stared at the message, then back at Nate's photo. Two paths stretched before her, diverging in ways she couldn't fully grasp. The safe route, accept the campaign, stick to what she knew, maintain the brand she'd built. The uncertain path, embrace authenticity, risk her carefully constructed image, explore the connection with Nate. She couldn't have both. The realization settled over her like a weight. As the Hawaiian sun dipped towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues no filter could replicate, Lily Chen stood at a crossroads. The choice she made would define not just her career, but who she was at her core. And time was running out. Chapter 10. Shattered Reflections. The Hawaiian sun beat down mercilessly as Lily stood on the beach, her designer sundress feeling suddenly constricting. She'd spent the morning in a haze of indecision, torn between responding to her manager about the luxury resort campaign and reaching out to Nate. In the end, she'd done neither, instead finding herself drawn to the spot where they'd saved the seal. Where everything had changed.
Lily?
She turned, her heart leaping at the sound of Nate's voice. He stood a few feet away, camera in hand, uncertainty written across his face.
Nate,
Lily started, but he cut her off.
Before you say anything, I need to show you something.
He led her to a nearby coffee shop, its open-air patio offering a view of the ocean. As they sat, Nate pulled out his laptop.
I've been working on this all night.
He said, turning the screen towards her. Lily's breath caught. On the screen was a photo essay, a series of images that told a story. Their story. There was Lily at the bonfire, laughing unself-consciously. Lily at the art gallery, her face a study in wonder as she gazed at a painting. And finally, Lily emerging from the ocean, triumphant after saving the seal.
Nate, these are...
Lily trailed off, unable to find the words.
Real.
Nate finished softly.
This is the real you, Lily. The one I've gotten to know. The one I'm falling for.
Lily's heart soared at his words, even as fear clawed at her insides.
They're beautiful. But Nate, I don't know if I can be this person all the time. My career, my followers.
Why not both?
Nate interrupted, his eyes alight with excitement.
We could collaborate. Combine your reach with my raw style. Show people the real Hawaii, the real you. It could be amazing, Lily.
For a moment, Lily let herself imagine it. A life where she could be both the polished influencer and the barefoot girl who saved seals. A partnership that was both personal and professional. But then reality came crashing back.
Nate,
Lily's phone buzzed, cutting her off. It was a message from her manager.
Lily, where are you? The resort execs are here for a meeting. They want to finalize the contract today. This is your big break.
Lily felt the blood drain from her face.
I have to go,
She said, standing abruptly.
I'm sorry, I forgot about a meeting.
Nate's face fell.
Lily, wait. We need to talk about this. About us.
I can't right now, I'm sorry.
With that, she fled, leaving Nate staring after her, his photo essay still open on the screen. The resort's conference room was all sleek lines and ocean views, a stark contrast to the coffee shop's cozy intimacy. Lily sat at the long table, her manager on one side, resort executives on the other.
We're thrilled to have you on board, Lily.
The lead executive, David, was saying.
Your brand aligns perfectly with our vision.
Lily nodded, trying to focus. But her mind kept drifting to Nate, to the hurt in his eyes as she'd left him.
Now we have a few stipulations.
David continued.
First, we'll need approval rights on all content posted during your stays at our properties.
Approval rights?
Her manager jumped in.
Standard procedure, Lily. Nothing to worry about.
But Lily felt a knot forming in her stomach. She thought of Nate's raw, unfiltered photos. Of the joy she'd felt being real, even for a moment.
Additionally,
David went on.
we'll need you to sign an exclusivity clause. No promoting other hotels or resorts for the duration of the contract.
Exclusivity?
Lily echoed.
But what about local businesses? Small family-run places?
David's smile didn't reach his eyes.
Our guests expect luxury, Lily. We can't have you diluting the brand with less refined options.
The knot in Lily's stomach tightened. She thought of the local artists at the gallery, of the fisherman Nate had photographed.
I need some time to think about this.
Lily said, standing. Her manager grabbed her arm.
Lily, what are you doing? This is everything we've worked for.
But Lily was already moving, needing air, needing space. She burst out of the hotel, gulping in the salty breeze. Without thinking, her feet carried her back to the beach, to Nate. But as she approached their spot, she saw him. And he wasn't alone. Nate was deep in conversation with a woman Lily recognized from the art gallery. She was gorgeous, all sun-kissed skin and wild curls, gesturing animatedly at something on Nate's camera. Lily felt her world tilt. Of course. Of course Nate would be interested in someone like that. Someone real, unafraid to be herself. Someone who fit into his world seamlessly. As if sensing her presence, Nate looked up. His face lit up.
Lily!
But Lily was already turning, fleeing back towards the hotel. She could hear Nate calling after her, but she didn't stop. Back in her room, Lily's emotions overwhelmed her. She'd walked away from the biggest opportunity of her career. And for what? A man who was probably better off with someone who actually belonged in his world. Her phone buzzed incessantly. Her manager, the resort execs, even Nate. She ignored them all, sinking onto the bed. Her gaze fell on her open suitcase, where the bottle of sand from her first meeting with Nate peeked out. With a sudden, choked sob, Lily grabbed it and hurled it against the wall. The bottle shattered, sand spilling across the floor like her broken dreams. In that moment, everything Lily had been holding back came rushing out. She cried for the career she might have just torpedoed, for the man she was falling for but couldn't seem to hold on to, for the version of herself she glimpsed but was terrified to fully embrace. As the sun set outside her window, painting the sky in colors no filter could capture, Lily Chen had never felt more lost or more alone. Her phone buzzed again. Without looking, she knew it was Nate. Probably explaining about the woman on the beach. Probably telling Lily he'd realized they were too different after all. She couldn't bear to read it. Not now. Maybe not ever. Instead, Lily did the one thing she knew how to do. She reached for her makeup bag, hands shaking as she applied her usual flawless face. She slipped on her most photogenic outfit, positioned herself by the window where the lighting was best. Click. Filter. Post.
Another perfect sunset in paradise. #blessed, #island life.
As likes and comments poured in, Lily stared at her reflection in the phone's dark screen. The girl looking back at her was beautiful, polished, everything her followers adored. She was also a complete stranger. Lily curled up on the bed, her perfectly styled hair fanning out on the pillow, and let the tears fall silently. Outside, the real world continued. Waves crashed, birds called, life went on. But in the artificial perfection of her hotel room, Lily had never felt further from reality, or from the person she was starting to realize she wanted to be. Chapter 11. Fractured Reflections. The harsh light of dawn filtered through the hotel curtains, finding Lily curled up on the bed, still in yesterday's clothes. Her phone lay silent beside her, its battery long dead. She hadn't been able to bring herself to charge it, to face the barrage of messages she knew awaited her. With heavy limbs, Lily dragged herself to the bathroom. The face that greeted her in the mirror was a far cry from her usual polished image. Good. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, hair a tangled mess. For a moment, she barely recognized herself. A knock at the door startled her. Lily froze, heart racing. Was it Nate? Her manager? The resort executives? Housekeeping, a cheerful voice called.
Not now, thank you.
She called back, voice hoarse from crying. She turned back to the mirror, studying her reflection. With trembling hands, she reached for her makeup bag, the familiar routine a comfort in the chaos of her thoughts. But as she applied her foundation, covering the dark circles and blotchy skin, something felt off. Each stroke of concealer, each swipe of lipstick, felt like she was erasing a part of herself. The part Nate had seen, had fallen for. Frustrated, Lily threw the makeup brush down. It clattered in the sink, leaving a smear of beige on the pristine white porcelain. She needed air, space to think. Throwing on a baseball cap and sunglasses, her incognito outfit for when she didn't want to be recognized, Lily slipped out of her room. The lobby was mercifully empty as she hurried through, but a magazine on a side table caught her eye. Lily froze, her breath catching in her throat. There, on the cover of Travel and Leisure, was a familiar face. Nate's face. The headline read, "Nate Reynolds, Capturing the Heart of Hawaii." With shaking hands, Lily picked up the magazine. She flipped to the article, her eyes scanning the pages hungrily. The spread was beautiful. Nate's raw, authentic style showcased perfectly. But it was the interview that made Lily's heart clench. I used to think influencer culture was fake, all surface and no substance, Nate was quoted as saying. But recently, I've started to see it differently. There's an art to curating beauty, to inspiring people. It's just a different kind of storytelling.
Lily's vision blurred with tears. He'd been thinking of her, trying to understand her world, while she'd been hiding in her room, assuming the worst. But then her eyes caught the next paragraph. Reynolds' next project will take him deep into the heart of the islands, documenting the lives of native Hawaiians in remote villages. It's about getting back to basics, he explains, stripping away the filters and finding the real Hawaii. The magazine slipped from Lily's fingers, landing with a soft thud on the marble floor. Nate was leaving, going somewhere she couldn't follow, not without abandoning everything she'd built. She stumbled out of the hotel, the bright Hawaiian sun, a stark contrast to the darkness swirling inside her. Without thinking, her feet carried her to the beach. Their beach. The spot where they'd saved the seal, where they'd shared that perfect, unfiltered moment. But as she approached, Lily's steps faltered. There, in the early morning light, was Nate. And he wasn't alone. He was surrounded by a small group, his camera in hand, gesturing animatedly as he spoke. Lily recognized some faces from the art gallery, including the beautiful woman she'd seen him with before. They looked right together. A group of artists, authentic and unafraid. Everything Lily wasn't sure she could be. As if sensing her presence, Nate looked up. His eyes widened.
Lily?
But Lily was already turning, fleeing back towards the hotel. She could hear Nate calling after her, his footsteps in the sand, but she didn't stop. Back in her room, Lily's hands shook as she finally plugged in her phone. It came to life with a flurry of notifications. Missed calls from her manager. Texts from the resort executives, demanding an answer. And messages from Nate.
Lily, please talk to me. It's not what you think. Let me explain. I got some amazing news. I want to share it with you.
The last message made Lily's heart twist. His amazing news. His new project, taking him away from her, from this tenuous connection they'd built. With a choked sob, Lily opened her laptop. Her finger hovered over the send button of the email she'd drafted to the resort executives, accepting their offer. It would be so easy. To slip back into her curated world. To be the Lily Chen her followers knew and loved. Safe, predictable, filtered. But then her eyes landed on the shards of glass on the floor, the spilled sand from her memento of their first meeting. In that moment, Lily saw her two possible futures laid out before her. A life of luxury resorts and brand deals, every moment perfectly staged and filtered. Safe, but somehow hollow. Or a life of uncertainty, of real moments and raw emotions. Terrifying, but potentially beautiful in its authenticity. Nate was choosing his path, diving deeper into his world of unfiltered reality, a world where Lily wasn't sure she belonged. Could she really change everything she was, everything she'd worked for a man who was about to leave, for a version of herself she wasn't sure she knew how to be? Lily's cursor blinked on the screen, awaiting her decision. Outside, the sound of waves crashing on the shore seemed to echo the turmoil in her heart. She was Lily Chen, influencer extraordinaire. The girl with the perfect feed and flawless content. The girl who never let her mask slip. But she was also the girl who'd felt more alive saving a seal than she had in 1,000 perfectly posed photos. The girl who'd seen herself through Nate's lens and for a moment liked what she saw. As the Hawaiian sun climbed higher in the sky, Lily Chen stood at a crossroads. The choice she made wouldn't just define her career, but who she was at her core. And this time, there was no filter to hide behind. Chapter 12. Unfiltered Hearts. Lily stood at the window of her hotel room, watching the sun dip towards the horizon. Her suitcase lay open on the bed, clothes spilling out haphazardly. The email to the resort executives remained unsent, the cursor still blinking accusingly on her laptop screen. A knock at the door startled her from her reverie. Lily froze, her heart racing. She'd been avoiding everyone for days, unsure how to face the mess she'd made of both her career and her heart.
Lily?
Nate's voice, muffled through the door, made her breath catch.
Please, I know you're in there. I just need 5 minutes.
Lily's hand hovered over the doorknob, trembling slightly. With a deep breath, she opened the door. Nate stood there, looking as disheveled as she felt. His eyes widened as he took in her appearance. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, wearing an oversized t-shirt instead of her usual curated outfits.
Lily.
He breathed, relief evident in his voice.
I was worried when you didn't answer my calls or messages.
I'm sorry,
Lily started, but Nate cut her off gently.
No, I'm sorry. I should have explained everything sooner. Can I come in? There's something I need to show you.
Hesitantly, Lily stepped aside, allowing him into the room. Nate's eyes fell on the open suitcase, then flicked to the laptop with its unsent email. Understanding dawned on his face.
You're leaving?
He asked softly.
I don't know anything anymore.
Nate nodded, his expression serious.
Then I'm glad I got here in time. Lily, remember when I said I had some amazing news? This is it.
He pulled out his tablet, fingers flying over the screen. Then he turned it towards her, and Lily's breath caught in her throat. It was a website, beautifully designed, showcasing a series of photographs. But not just any photographs. They were of her. Lily in unguarded moments, laughing at the bonfire, wonder on her face at the art gallery, triumphant after saving the seal. Interspersed were her own Instagram posts, the contrast striking yet somehow harmonious.
I don't understand,
Lily whispered, her eyes glued to the screen. Nate took a deep breath.
It's a collaboration between my raw style and your curated content. The magazine feature? It wasn't just about me. It was about us, about this project, about showing that both styles have value, that they can complement each other.
He swiped to another page, revealing more photos and a mission statement, bridging the gap between filtered and unfiltered, curated and candid, showing the beauty in both the polished and the raw. Lily's hands shook as she took the tablet, scrolling through the site.
But your project in the remote villages?
Nate smiled softly.
That's part of it too. I want to document the real Hawaii, yes. But I also want to show how influencers like you can use your platform to shine a light on these stories, to bridge the gap between luxury travel and authentic experiences.
He stepped closer, his voice low and earnest.
Lily, I was wrong before. I thought authenticity meant rejecting anything curated or polished. But watching you, getting to know you, I realized that your work, your ability to find and showcase beauty, that's authentic too. It's part of who you are.
Lily felt tears pricking at her eyes.
But I saw you with those other artists, and I felt like I didn't belong in that world.
Nate's hand came up to cup her cheek, thumbing away a tear that had escaped.
You belong in both worlds, Lily. That's what makes you special. You have the eye for beauty and the heart for authenticity. And I want to be part of both those worlds with you, if you'll let me.
Lily's mind was reeling. She looked back at the website, seeing herself through Nate's eyes. The polished influencer and the barefoot girl who saved seals. Both real, both valuable, both her.
But what about the resort campaign?
She asked, her voice small. Nate's eyes lit up.
That's the best part. I spoke with them, showed them this concept. They love it, Lily. They want to be part of this new wave of authentic luxury travel content. They're offering us both a contract to travel, to capture both the luxury and the local experiences, to tell the whole story.
Lily's heart soared at the word us. She looked up at Nate, really looked at him. Gone was the judgment she'd once feared seeing in his eyes. Instead, there was understanding, admiration, and something deeper that made her breath catch.
I've been so afraid.
Lily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper.
Afraid of losing everything I've built. Afraid of not being enough for your world. Afraid of being real.
Nate pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her.
Being real is what made me fall in love with you, Lily. Your laugh at the bonfire, your wonder at the art gallery, your bravery with the seal. That's the real you, and she's amazing. The fact that you can also curate beauty and inspire people, that just makes you even more incredible.
Lily's heart skipped at the word love. She pulled back slightly, searching Nate's face.
You love me?
Nate smiled, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear.
Completely and utterly, both the filtered and unfiltered versions.
In that moment, something shifted inside Lily. The fear that had been holding her back melted away, replaced by a certainty she'd never felt before. She reached up, pulling Nate down to her. Their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home and embarking on a new adventure all at once. When they parted, both slightly breathless, Lily smiled. A real, unfiltered smile that lit up her whole face.
I love you too,
she said softly.
and I'm ready. Ready to be real, to bridge both worlds with you.
Nate beamed, pulling her close again. Over his shoulder, Lily's gaze fell on her open suitcase, the unsent email on her laptop. She realized with a start that she no longer felt torn between two paths. Instead, a new path had opened up before her, one that embraced all parts of herself, that allowed her to be both the polished influencer and the authentic adventurer. A path where she could inspire her followers, not just with beautiful images, but with real experiences and meaningful stories. And best of all, it was a path she wouldn't have to walk alone. As the Hawaiian sun set outside, painting the sky in colors no filter could enhance, Lily Chen stood at the threshold of a new chapter in her life. One where authenticity and curation could coexist, where love and career could intertwine. For the first time in as long as she could remember, she was excited to share not just a perfectly posed moment, but the beautiful, messy, authentic journey ahead. And she couldn't wait to see how it would unfold, both on and off camera. Chapter 13. Perfectly Imperfect. The warm Hawaiian breeze ruffled Lily's hair as she stood on the beach, toes sinking into the sand. The rising sun painted the sky in hues that no filter could improve. Beside her, Nate adjusted his camera, preparing to capture the moment.
Ready?
He asked, a soft smile playing on his lips. Lily nodded, taking a deep breath. She faced the ocean, letting the beauty of the moment wash over her. No posed smile, no carefully angled selfie. Just Lily, embracing the raw beauty of the sunrise. Click. As Nate lowered his camera, Lily turned to him, her eyes sparkling.
Did you get it?
Got it.
Nate confirmed, showing her the screen. The image took Lily's breath away. It captured not just the stunning sunrise, but the wonder on her own face as she experienced it.
It's perfect,
she whispered. Nate's arm slipped around her waist, pulling her close.
You're perfect,
he murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. Lily leaned into him, marveling at how right it felt. 6 months had passed since that pivotal moment in her hotel room, and every day since had been an adventure in balancing her two worlds, and falling more in love in the process. Their collaborative project had taken off beyond their wildest dreams. Luxury resorts and local communities alike had embraced their unique blend of polished content and raw experiences. Lily's followers had doubled, drawn in by the authentic stories behind the beautiful images. But more than the professional success, It was the personal growth that left Lily in awe. She thought back to the terrified girl who had almost walked away from it all, who had been so afraid of being real. That girl felt like a distant memory now.
Penny for your thoughts?
Nate's voice broke through her reverie. Lily smiled up at him.
Just thinking about how far we've come. How far I've come.
Nate's eyes softened.
You've always been amazing, Lily. You just needed to see it for yourself.
A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched the sun climb higher. Then Lily's phone buzzed with a notification. She pulled it out, chuckling at what she saw.
What's so funny?
Nate asked, peering over her shoulder. Lily showed him the screen. It was her latest Instagram post, a behind-the-scenes shot Nate had taken of her interviewing a local artisan. The comments were flooding in. Love this real content. You're inspiring me to seek out local experiences on my travels. The perfect blend of glam and authentic.
Looks like your followers approve of the new Lily.
Nate grinned.
Our followers.
Lily corrected, bumping his hip with hers.
This is a team effort, remember?
Nate's smile widened as he pulled her in for a kiss. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers.
How could I forget? We make a pretty good team, don't we?
The best.
Lily agreed, her heart full to bursting.
Just then, a familiar bark caught their attention. They turned to see a monk seal lounging on the beach not far from them. The very same one they had rescued all those months ago.
Well, hello there, old friend.
Nate called out softly. Lily felt a surge of emotion as she watched the seal. It was a living reminder of the moment everything had changed, when she had first allowed herself to be truly real with Nate.
Should we say hello?
Nate asked, already reaching for his camera. Lily nodded eagerly. As they approached the seal, moving slowly and respectfully, she marveled at how different this felt from her old photo shoots. There was no pressure to get the perfect pose, no anxiety about engagement rates, just the pure joy of experiencing a beautiful moment, and the added bonus of being able to share it with others. As Nate snapped photos of the seal and Lily, she found herself imagining the story they would tell. Not just of a cute animal encounter, but of conservation efforts, of respecting wildlife, of the delicate balance between tourism and preservation. It was so much more than just a pretty picture. It was meaningful. It was real.
Hey.
Nate said softly, lowering his camera.
You've got that look.
What look?
Lily asked, tearing her gaze away from the seal.
The one that says you're hatching a plan. Spill it, Chen.
Lily laughed, marveling at how well he knew her.
I was just thinking, what if we did a series on wildlife conservation? Partner with local organizations, raise awareness about responsible tourism.
Nate's face lit up.
That's brilliant, Lily. See? This is why we're perfect together. Your big picture thinking, my on-the-ground approach.
Your artistic eye, my knack for engaging content.
Lily continued.
Your heart, my soul.
Nate finished, pulling her close. As they stood there, the seal lounging nearby, the rising sun warming their skin, Lily felt a sense of contentment she'd never known before. This was what she had always been searching for, though she hadn't known it. A life that was beautiful both on and off camera. A partner who challenged her to grow while loving every version of her. A purpose that went beyond likes and follows. She turned to Nate, her eyes shining.
I love you,
she said simply.
All of this. The work, the adventures, the growth. It's amazing. But loving you, being loved by you, that's the most authentic, beautiful thing of all.
Nate's answering smile was brighter than any camera flash.
I love you too, Lily. Every filtered and unfiltered bit.
As they sealed their words with a kiss, Lily knew with absolute certainty that this was her happily ever after. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Messy and beautiful, challenging and rewarding, just like the best adventures always are. The seal barked, as if in approval, before sliding back into the waves. Lily and Nate watched it go, hands intertwined, hearts in sync.
Ready for our next adventure?
Nate asked, giving her hand a squeeze. Lily beamed up at him, feeling more ready than she ever had in her life.
Always.
As they walked back up the beach, planning their wildlife conservation series, Lily felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. She had found a way to be true to herself while still inspiring others. She had found a partner who saw and loved all sides of her. She had found a purpose that fulfilled her soul. Pausing for a moment, Lily pulled out her phone. She snapped a quick selfie of her and Nate, sand on their clothes, hair tousled by the wind, happiness radiating from their faces. No filter needed.
Starting a new chapter, both on and off the gram. Real life, real love, real purpose. Hashtag no filter. Hashtag authentic adventures.
As she hit post, Lily tucked her phone away and took Nate's hand again. Whatever came next, she knew they would face it together. Authentically, wholeheartedly, and with a perfect balance of polish and raw beauty. And really, what could be more picture perfect than that?